Yes, it's not as loud as I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to just do good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's executive board meeting of the NERC If we could, we call the meeting to order, and if we would stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Attorney Hallenbeck, how are you this morning? I understand we've got some new appointments.
Yes, and I'm fine.
Good.
Although I was told yesterday that I should leave that determination to the wisdom of others.
All right.
Not George. Yes, we do have.
All right, very good. Please share.
Can I go through them quickly and have a moment of your time? Mayor Melton of Gary notifies us that until further notice, Lori Latham will be his appointment to the commission. The town of Potawatomi Park notifies us that the town board president, Larry Coley, will be the town's appointment to the commission. The town of Dyer notifies us that Annette Ludwig will be the appointment. Last time, we acknowledged Jim Biggs's appointment by the commissioners, but we'll put him in that bundle here as well. And the LaPorte County Commissioners, Joe Haney, is designated as their representative to the commission. I've reviewed the appointment letters, and they are all in proper form pursuant to our enabling statute, so we should welcome our new members. Some of them are repeat, but
Very good. And
there was one comment in there, the town board. There are no town boards in the state of Indiana anymore.
excuse me.
Town councils, and
Yes.
the only reason I looked that up because I was responsible for getting that changed.
thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
And I believe Joe is the only one of our new appointments here. Oh, and Lori are in attendance this morning. So welcome you both. Thank you for coming to the executive board meeting. All right, Candace, it is time for roll call. Let's see what we've got this morning.
All right, this is an executive board meeting, so I will start with the executive board members to ensure we have a quorum, and then I'll continue on with the remaining commissioners. Austin Plonka.
Here.
City of Portage. Kevin Breisky, Porter County Surveyor.
Still here.
Denise Ebert, Town of Wanata.
Here.
Bill Emerson, Lake County Surveyor.
Here.
Wendy Miss, Town of Munster.
Present.
Robert Ordway, Governor's appointee. Courtney Partoon, City of LaPorte. David Phelps, Town of Beverly Shores.
Present.
Lisa Rosenkrantz, Town of La Crosse. Tom Schmidt, Town of Cherville.
Here.
Jim Tunn, Town of Chesterton.
Present.
We have quorum, we need 6 and we have 9.
Very good.
Let's continue on to the remaining roll call. Kyle Allen, Lake County Commissioner. Dwayne Arndt, Town of Kingsford Heights. Jenny Byer, Town of Schneider. Jim Biggs, Porter County Commissioner. Thomas Black, Town of Highland. Jim Burge, Town of Porter.
Here.
Robert Carnahan, Town of Cedar Lake.
Here.
Bill Carroll, City of Lake Station. Tim Clayton, Town of Winfield. Larry Coley, Town of Potawatomi Park. John Costa, City of Valparaiso. Dinah Dubras, Town of Michiana Shores. Jimmy Gibson, Town of New Chicago. Joe Haney, LaPorte County Commissioner.
Present.
Keisha Hardaway, Town of Maryville. Bonnie Hawksworth, Town of Dune Acres. Christian Hendren, Porter Township Trustee. Vanessa Hernandez Orange, City of East Chicago. Josh Huddleston, City of Hobart. Lori Hunt, Town of Westville. Justin Keel, LaPorte County Council. Scott Keenan, Town of Ogden Dunes. Peter Land, City of Crown Point. Colleen Lane, Town of Long Beach.
Here.
Lori Latham, City of Gary.
Present.
Annette Ludwig, Town of Dyer. John Matheson, LaPorte County Surveyor.
Present.
Tom McDermott, City of Hammond. Jack McGraw, Town of Burns Harbor. Angie Nelson Deitch, City of Michigan City. Randall Niemeyer, Lake County Council. Rick Rifa, Town of Griffith. Warren Schacht, Town of Trail Creek. John Scone, Town of Couts. Steve Spivar, City of Whiting. Gerald Sweats, Town of St. John. George Topple, Union Township.
Present.
Andy Vasquez, Porter County Council.
Here.
We have 18 total in attendance.
Very good, thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. There are no items for public comment this morning. So we will move on to approval of the minutes for the February 19th Executive Board meeting. Do I,
To approve. Second.
Kevin, Jim, thank you. Any discussions, comments on the minutes from the wishful thinking, February 19th meeting? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Very good. All right, leadership. We've got the leadership meeting. There it is, okay. Last meeting, we acknowledged the members of the commission that had perfect attendance, that for full commission, we have certificates, so if I can have a moment, I will pass these out. Congratulations, and I know it was announced and we applauded every time, last time, but we're gonna do it again. Mary Tanis, thank you for your perfect attendance for full commission meetings.
Thank you.
Bob Carnahan, Mr. Perfect Attendance. I wonder how many years back we can go.
Thank you.
Bill Emerson, thank you, Bill. All right, John Matwison.
Yes.
Kind of close, it was a little close.
Yes.
David Phelps, thank you. And Tom Schmidt, another, here we go. Jim Tun. And another never miss a meeting, Mr. George Tobel. So thank you everyone for your attendance. We appreciate it. Speaking of attendance, the leadership committee is going to turn the meeting over to Ty, and he has a presentation for us, kind of a follow-up to the conversation from the last meeting.
Thank you so much. So there was a robust discussion last time on attendance and or lack thereof when we were not able to get a full commission quorum. So after some of the conversations and feedback and listening to the recording of the last meeting, I thought it'd be helpful to talk about what we do for attendance and where we are with that, and see if you had any ideas. But first, starting off by providing some context for what happened last month and why it was a little bit of a one-off kind of situation, unfortunately. But let me start off with that. First of all, let me say these two are great. Our chair and our vice chair have agreed to wait until April, when we had a full commission meeting scheduled anyway, to do the slate, which is why we did not bother scheduling a full commission meeting for this meeting, rather than bring everybody back for March just to come back again in April. These two graciously, there's no like clawing after power on the part of Mayor Bonta to try to get to be chair. So everybody was very gracious and just working out, let's just wait till April. So just FYI, next month is a full commission meeting, so we do need a quorum, at least 27 out of our 53 commissioners to be present. That's to adopt the slate of officers in the executive board. So that will take place in April. We've also waited for the annual Tufford Award. That will be presented in April as well. So we have a lot happening next month, so make sure April 16th is on your calendar. So first, some context. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but just so you know what's going on, if this works. Sorry, Meredith. I don't think it, oh, there we go. Great, so thank you. And thanks to Meredith and Candy for getting this up on the screen so quickly. So there were some extenuating circumstances last month that happens, but just so you know some of the context, we actually knew that Wendy and myself would not be present last. I was with One Region with a trip to Phoenix during that time. So when we had laid out the calendar for 2026, we had actually contemplated not having a February meeting, which would have avoided everything. But we had some transportation items that needed to get voted on in February, so we continued on. Mayor Bontu, we checked to make sure he would be present, and he was. Tom Vanderwood was, thank you, Tom, for stepping in to staff up here. So we figured we'll go ahead and have the February meeting for those transportation items. So all well and good, or all should have been well and good, but we had a weather situation at our January full commission meeting. So if you recall, we canceled that meeting for weather. That shifted everything to February, which again, we were trying not to have a February meeting to start with. But then on top of that, good news for Northwest Indiana, but the legislation in Indianapolis was taking place, Senate Bill 27 for the Bears Stadium. So we lost at least 4 of our commissioners that were down there involved in testifying for that issue. We also had just some personal circumstances. Just so happened 2 of our executive board members had sick family members and couldn't attend. And then there was a little bit of confusion over the quorum too. And just FYI, going forward, there are 11 members on the executive board. That's 2 from each county. The 4 officers, treasurer, secretary, vice chair, and chair, and the governor's appointee, you add those up, that's 11 members, so a quorum is 6. So just going forward, I think, if I understand correctly, I think we actually did have 6, but it took us a while to figure out that we actually could get started with the meeting. So now that everybody's clear, it's a quorum of 6 executive board members needed to start. So got through it, got sorted out, but it did prompt a great discussion. Meredith's letting me go with the fiction that I'm actually advancing slides. But just
Pick up the remote and
right.
just sit down.
It's a good look.
Exactly. I'll do it with style.
Just point at it.
So our current practice, I just thought it would be helpful because again, it was a robust discussion about attendance and what we can do to try to get more commissioners present so we don't have these issues with quorum. I will say at the outset, and I'm sure Dave would be glad to comment on this more if you'd like, but Dave Hollenbeck was around when this new structure was put in place in 2003 that set out all this. And as he tells me, and he would attest, this was a concern that was raised way back then, that having 53 commissioners and needing a quorum of 27 was going to be a challenge. More often than not, it has not been. It's been fine. But ever since COVID, for whatever reason, and I can pretty much tag it to COVID, we've really struggled. Sometimes we've been waiting, as you know, for the person to walk in the door to get the 27th member in. And I don't have a great answer for that. That's why I'm looking for you, and I'm going to go looking to you for possible answers and solutions on how to help this going forward. But I thought everybody should understand what we do to help gain attendance and make sure that folks are coming to the meeting. So let me read through this list, and then I've got slides for each one of these. So we do a welcome letter to new commissioners. So if you've been around on the commission since around 2022 or so, you've received a pretty lengthy welcome letter that I think has 11 items on it. And I give you everything from the Unified Planning Work Program, so you know what we do on a daily basis, to NERC structure, to the plans that we create, et cetera, with links so that you can go to these and read up to those as you would like. So every commissioner receives a welcome letter. I'll go into that in more detail in a minute. We have occasionally done orientation sessions. Admittedly, it has been a while since we've done that, but I'll tell you what we've done in the past. I'll go through the meeting notice process that Candy manages so that you know about the meetings and how she follows up, which is item D. What we do with the minutes to track attendance. And then when we have to notify the appointing authority, I'll talk more about that. And then the attendance awards, as Wendy just did. So, all right. Thank you. She's so good. So our welcome letter, like I said, there's 11 items. The last item on here, I'm not going to read through this or expect you to read through it. But we have a link to the meetings for 2026. Try to make it very clear that your attendance is needed at the full commission meetings, which are only 4 times a year. So you are, again, everybody that I'm staring at right now is more than welcome to be at these meetings, but it's really these folks here that are expected to be there more than 4 times a year. Everybody else, there's really no more requirement than those 4 quarterly meetings. So it's really not that heavy a lift. So we try to spell that out when the meetings are and make it clear what the expectations are. Next one. So we have done an orientation session in the past. We had one, I don't remember the exact year off the top of my head, but we had 1 year, for whatever reason was going on with elections, there was quite a bit of turnover. We had quite a bit of new NERC appointments. So we had 2 different lunches that we actually took folks out to. That was when the restaurant was still at Bass Pro. It's not there anymore. I think a lot of people miss that. But we had those over there, and this is, I just copied a section of what I've handed out at those orientations. So we have walked through how NERC is structured, how NERC works, how NERC is funded, and then how to get the most bang out of your buck for being a member of NERC and how to bring that back to your communities. So we have done that. This discussion prompted me that we should make a concerted effort to do that again. Again, admittedly, it's been several years since we've held one of these. I think we did attempt to do one after the commission meeting for new members that happened to be new at that time. And I think we had some trouble getting folks actually to stay around for it, if I recall. And again, I'm not trying to push that back on anybody else. It's just something we should probably keep offering and we'll continue to offer. So I think that came up at the last meeting, if I understand from the discussion. So we'll try to reinvigorate that process. But we have done that before and seemed to have a good response when we took people out to lunch at least that time. Right, next one. So the meeting notices, you all receive these. Candy sends these out. There are actual voting buttons right in there. Yes, I will attend. No, I cannot attend. That gives us the heads up and gives Candy the heads up that if we have some kind of critical amount of no's, then we may need to consider what we're doing about that meeting. Unfortunately, and again, anything I say today is not pointing fingers at any one person. It's just the way things happen. But unfortunately, clicking yes does not guarantee that people actually come. So we can't rely on those yes votes, as we found out. There have been plenty of times we thought we'd have, say, 35, 40 people at a commission meeting and we struggle with a quorum then when we get there. So I guess if I have a request, and again, not pointing fingers, if I have a request is to take this seriously, and if you're going to be there, actually plan to be there, if you click yes, but click no if you're not. And I'm gonna tell you a little secret too, that I hope this doesn't sound too scary, but we use a software called Constant Contact. It can actually track when you open the emails, and so we know if you looked at the email or not. And again, not calling anybody out, people have told me, I didn't get the notice. You got the notice. We know that you clicked the email, so you can't get away with that, I'm sorry. So we know. So we send out that, next slide, I think. So she gets that RSVP tally, all right? If she thinks there's a problem or she hasn't heard from somebody, she follows up with an email to you, and then if she still hasn't heard anything, she follows up with a phone call. So either way, Candy's made a concerted effort to try to track down what our numbers are going to be. If you can imagine though, there's the magic number of 53 of you. So if we're not getting responses from the commission, that's a lot of folks for Candy to try to track down. So again, just the importance of putting this on your calendar and letting us know if you're not going to be there. So next one. And then we started doing this some years ago, is to literally put in the minutes not only, and I'm sorry if this appears like a wall of shame, but it's trying to be clear about who's coming and who's not. So we put in the minutes not just who's present, but we list who's absent. So if you have not looked at your minutes actually and seen that, we're listing every meeting who's not attended the previous meeting. And so if you look at actually page 1 of your packet right now, you can see right there from last meeting, there's present and absent. Doesn't say anything about whether there were extenuating circumstances or not, it's just whether you were here or not. But then the additional thing we've added is that if you've missed more than 3 commission meetings, and we're talking about the quarterly full commission meetings, not the executive board meetings. If you've missed more than 3, there's actually, which I'll go on to in a minute, there's actually a statutory reference to what happens if you miss more than 3 commission meetings. And so we put asterisks by those folks that are way past their missing 3 meetings. And so you can see those names right there. Again, we're not being secret about who hasn't attended. So you can see that asterisk reference to the Indiana State Code that references the expectations of being present and what happens if you miss more than 3. All right, next one. So I know this may be a little hard to read because it's small, but this is literally out of the state statute. So this is a reminder, even though NERC is not a state agency, NERC's structure is written into state code. And so that state code, and this I will read out loud because it's a little small. If a member of the commission is absent for more than 3 consecutive meetings of, again, full commission, the commission shall, and it says shall, it does not say may, shall notify that member's appointing authority and request the appointing authority do one of the following. One, replace the member as the appointee from that community, or two, take action to assure the member's conscientious attendance in meetings of the full commission. So more recently, we put that more on automatic. We've developed a pretty much standard letter that now we're not wasting any time from now on. We started doing this, I think, end of last year maybe, is after 3 meetings have been missed, a letter's going out to the appointing authority that you have not attended 3 commission meetings. You need to either replace that appointee or do something to make sure that they attend. So again, to take that responsibility seriously. So that is happening. Then we've done, the attendance awards predate me. They've been going on for some time. We just did them this morning, but that's at least to recognize those folks that have made a concerted effort to attend. We do these in 2 categories. If you've made all 4 quarterly commission meetings, which again is the only expectation of the full commission, but then if you've also been present at all 4 full commission plus executive board meetings, and that it depends on the calendar year, but that's often between 10 and 12 meetings per year. So we give two award categories to recognize attendance. Great, so that's the list of what we do right now. Again, would welcome your ideas. I've got another slide after this though, so hang on. But would welcome your ideas for if there's any other way to tackle this. Going forward, I think we just did this for this meeting for those that said they were gonna be here, is we're also going to take the extra step of sending out direct calendar invites, as you often get with email to put on your electronic calendars for these meetings. We'll only send those to the executive board members for executive board meetings, but for the full commission, we'll send it out to all 53. And we also have, just FYI, there are some mayors and whatnot that have administrative folks that handle their correspondence, so some of those go to those. But we'll be sending direct calendar invites as another way to make sure it gets on your calendar so you have it. Again, can't accentuate this enough for the commissioners, and we've talked about this before, you know, in a way, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, I'm just letting you understand what happens in terms of attendance. And there's a degree at which, as Dave has often said, we're kind of preaching to the choir because you're here. So it's the folks that aren't present that we need to follow up with. So, but again, I can't accentuate this enough. There's only 4 commission meetings that you really need to attend and that we need you to. So if you have to pick and choose, you are always welcome to come to executive board meetings if you're not on the executive board. But there's only 4 per year, they're quarterly. And so the remaining 3 meetings, we put this in the last email that went out, the remaining 3 meetings, April 16th, next month, July 16th, and November 19th. So that's it for 2026, just those 3 meetings. Always 9 a.m., 3rd Thursday in this room. So here's, and again, I'm gonna leave it completely up to you all, whether you want to have any additional conversation now or just want to think about this and let me know if you have some ideas or anything. But here's the kind of things that I think might be helpful for some feedback. First of all, the meeting format. And this is the way, at least I look at the executive board and the full commission meetings and how we try to make these a little bit different. The executive boards I see as more crisp meetings, quick items. These are the things that have to get voted on quickly. Occasionally, because of being an executive board with a smaller number of people, we have operational discussions like the one I'm having right now with you all. So that's the way I look at executive board, is try to get you in and out. We're not loading up a bunch of other stuff on the agenda, that kind of thing. Full commission, which again, did I say this, is only 4 times per year. We occasionally have presentations at those, so we try to make those meetings a little bit meatier. If there's something meatier, not meteor, meatier. If there's things that we think would be beneficial or folks have wanted to address the commission, we've had several things over the years. So we have occasional presentations at the full commission meetings. And what I put under that line, just as a quick cheat sheet, those 4 things, budget, officers, structure, and executive director, those are the 4 items in our state statute that require a full commission. So the executive board cannot vote on those 4 things. That requires a quorum 27 plus of the full commission. The budget, and I think there was a little bit misunderstanding from what I understand last meeting. We did adopt the budget last December, that's already done. So or November, whatever it was, I forget. But that is done. But what we were not able to vote on last month was the officer slate. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we're delaying that till April. Any structure related to NERC, so when we revamped our party structure, that required a vote of the full commission. And then the hiring and firing of the executive director, that's also with the full commission. So those 4 things are, we can't do as an executive board. Everything that's not in those 4, we can and have defaulted to the executive board to do. And Dave Hollenbeck, in his wisdom, I forget how long ago that was, but decided that it would be beneficial for NERC to post these meetings as a full commission or slash, or however we do it, executive board, so that, as happened last month, if we don't get a full commission, we're not just dead in the water. We can default to an executive board meeting to do everything else on the agenda that's not one of those 4 things on that list. So that's at least how I'm trying to work at these 2 differences between the executive board and the full commission. The 2 other things I put on there is that I think was pointed out the last meeting, there are 4 communities that have not made an appointment yet to NERC at all. And I, again, don't mind naming names, it's right there in the minutes. Hebron, Kingsbury, Lowell, and the Pines. We're still waiting on appointments. Hebron and Lowell are relatively recent that they haven't, but Kingsbury and the Pines, as long as I've been here, have not made appointments. And I will say with, again, on one hand, I'm hesitant to name names, on the other hand, I don't mind, because we need people here. So just Kingsbury is kind of a funny story in that we've been trying to track down an appointment from there. We were literally told when we were trying to contact the town council president, well, you can show up at the fire station, you might catch him there. So I literally was out in that neck of the woods and stopped by the fire station to try to find the town council president. It was locked, so I was not able.
Just happened to be driving by the fire station.
I was in LaPorte and just decided I'm going down to Kingsbury and see if I can find. So did try at least once. So that's been a problem. When there have been issues getting folks appointed, particularly for the communities, the towns versus the cities, what I've been told at least a couple of times, and I do get this, is that everybody works on our town council. They can't take time for the 9 a.m. Weekday meetings, and I do respect that. But the 2 things that I try to say to them is, 1, again, did I mention 4 times a year? Only 4 times a year, that's all we're asking. So if they can slip away at 9 a.m. on the 3rd Thursdays just 4 times a year, that would be beneficial. But even if they can't do that, if they at least appoint somebody, there's a conduit for us to be sending the NERC information, whether or not they can attend in person. But again, that's been a challenge with these 4. So that leads to the last bullet point is just...
Before you move on, just one observation. Those 4 entities that haven't assigned anyone, we have to count that as part of the quorum process.
Correct.
So right off the bat, when we're counting, we're 4 in the hole of trying to find the requisite number of people, and that is problematic as well.
Thank you,
And
Dave.
what
That's an
if
excellent point.
somebody knows those communities, maybe you can touch base with them and see if, I know Ty, you said you had trouble getting a hold of the one,
Yeah.
Kingsbury, and
Yeah. Bob, thank you. That's an exact segue to my last bullet. That's exactly what I'm talking about there, is that, as I've often said, whether it's legislation or other things, there's a big difference between staff contacting people and other elected officials contacting people. And so we will continue to try, that's our job, but it makes, I think, a much huger impact if you happen, just exactly as you said, Bob, if you happen to know any of these folks or anybody on these town councils, for you to make that contact is much more impactful than me just trying to get somebody to appoint someone. And so it's much more beneficial. So that's exactly it. I'm essentially enlisting your help for these and for those that have not been attended. So I think, Barry, if you go on one more. So that number, that's my direct line. So if you have any thoughts, questions at all about any of this, or how we might improve the process, or feedback about these meetings, ideas if you think they should be run differently, or anything, I'm absolutely all ears. So please contact me. I'd be glad to take you out to coffee or whatever to have discussions about this. And that is all the slides I prepared. So if you have any other thoughts, comments, suggestions, yeah, George and Bob.
George, you want to go first?
Well, you were talking about, I'll
All right. that list of names that people that are absent. What if you just made a shot of that, a screenshot, and send that directly to those people, and then put underneath it that if you miss 3 meetings, you either gotta replace that person or encourage that person to come.
Part of the problem with that is oftentimes those are the same people who have made the appointment and they've appointed themselves, like this morning. So that makes it more problematic.
But if they see their name emphasized, not the other stuff, maybe they don't say, hey, I don't want to see this anymore.
We do send the formal letter that says that, but maybe, yeah.
Offer them a ride, I don't know.
Following on to Bob's point, and I brought this up before, I know of people who are willing to attend, but people will not appoint them. And my thought is, and I don't know if it's possible, but if they refuse to appoint somebody within a certain period of time, would it be possible for the county commissioners to encourage them, or maybe even select somebody that's an elected official to represent that community, because it affects the county?
And that would take a change in our enabling.
Oh, I understand that, but I mean, it's a thought, because there are some people that just refuse to, as you know, to appoint someone else, and they refuse to come.
I won't name this particular community, but I can think of one in particular. And just to be clear, all staff, we work very hard to stay out of politics. We don't get involved in that. But I know in this particular community, there's somebody on that council that loves NERC, wants to serve at NERC, but the political situation is such they cannot get appointed, and their actual appointee will not come. So it's a problem. Yeah, we are.
And there's at least one of those communities that has not appointed somebody, and there's a willing person.
Well, at some point, right? Maybe that guy, I don't know that community you're talking about, so please don't take this as like, this is not like, at some point, right? If you want to be on NERC bad enough, run for the appointing authority, right? I mean, to some level, I mean, I think it's, I mean, to put it simply, again, not trying to give anybody political advice, right? But so much benefit comes from participating in NERC. Eventually, you might have somebody, if you're a mayor that doesn't show up, or a town council that doesn't appoint anybody, somewhere in that community might be someone planning to run for office. And I'm not big on negative campaigning, but maybe something should be said of, you know, guys, we're missing out because they're not appointing somebody, or they're not serving on NERC. Again, not my business to get into the other town's politics, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of, do the voters of that community want their leaders participating on this more than us being able to force it?
I think Bill wanted to say.
Yes, thanks, Bob.
I recall, I'm not sure if this went through, but wasn't attendance part of the criteria for project reviews as well for scoring?
Thank you, Bill. We had one of our committees, Mitch used to do this with the old pedal committee, is literally give points regarding attendance and scoring. And so we have talked about this for the upcoming NOFA, or I think Charles has mentioned this before to the T-Rock committee as well. And thank you, Bill, for saying that. And I should have put that on the slide, because we're considering that for the NOFA criteria. So as your projects get selected, you will not get as many points for not being at the meeting. So you get deducted for not being there. So your project will not score as high if you're not present.
And I don't know what the letter looks like that you're sending out, but I mean, it might be important. Some of the smaller communities may not even know exactly what's going on here. So, we decide where X tens of millions of dollars go every year, and that could affect your community, right? So.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
And that would go back to the orientation portion too.
Very good. Any other comments? I got, yes,
I'll add 2
thank
items
you,
to
Adam.
the discussion. And this is just based on Matt and I frequenting another MPO board and observing a couple of differences there. And I think their structure is also a little very different from yours, so maybe none of this applies. However, I do know that over there in MACOG, they allow for virtual attendance. However, they only allow virtual attendees to vote if there's not a quorum of in-person attendees. Do you understand what I mean? So it's almost, honestly, it almost never comes up. Usually there is a quorum of in-person attendees, and again, they have fewer overall members, so I think it's, it's a different ballgame. However,
That's helpful.
I've noted that that's something. And then also at that meeting, in that as a voting member, I don't know that adding a voting member really helps solve the quorum issue, but it might. And if that were something that was of interest, I think, we could potentially be open to that. And again, I don't know if structurally that's something that makes sense for you all, but just throwing those into the play here.
That would require a change in
Sure.
the state statute, but point taken. And we do, just as a quick FYI, we did discuss when that legislation was passed to allow virtual participation. We did discuss whether we were going to do that. The sense at that time was that between 53 commissioners and having to keep track of how many times you've participated virtually and all the requirements of that legislation, that it just seemed too overwhelming to try to do. But that backup plan that's really
So whether even if they're not allowed to vote, they're still participating in the meeting and even making comments, but they're just not allowed to vote unless there's not a quorum in person.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I had just a couple of, Joe, go.
Yeah, I'll reach out. I'll personally reach out to Kingsbury this afternoon and stress to them the importance of having somebody here. So
Thank you, we appreciate that
Yeah.
very much. I had a couple of notes that I made. One is when you receive that email notification that a meeting is coming up, the one where you vote yes or no, or indicate yes or no whether you're going to attend, also included in there is a link to the meeting packet, and I always like to encourage everyone to take a look at that before they get to the meeting, so you know what today's meeting is going to be about, even if you just skim through, just so you know what's there, look at the minutes, that type of thing. So click on that link, it's also in that meeting notification. As far as notifications for today's meeting, I have it in my calendar 4 times. So I must have RSVP'd, I must have got the calendar invite, I may have put it in there myself, but there's no shortage of notifications. So, there's lots of opportunities, put it in your calendars. And I don't know if I can pick one meeting of the full commission that's more important than another, because they're all incredibly important, but my little clerk treasurer heart goes toward the November 19th where we pass the budget. And having that in place for the following year is extremely important. So if you're looking and you're trying to decide, we want you at all of the commission meetings, but November 19th is the one that put a big star next to it, because that quorum is incredibly important. And if we don't have a quorum, which we have not had the quorum in prior years, the trickle effect into January, February, there's an impact on the organization. So that's very important. So.
Can I say?
Sure.
I don't mean to prolong this, but just two quick things. The first is not specifically about attendance, but as I listened to the recording of the meeting, this came up, so just wanted to address it real quick, is that, just to clarify, sometimes things do seem, and I'm looking at you all just because I'm facing you, it's like I'm involving everybody. But sometimes, go ahead, sorry.
And based on the number of perfect attendance awards that we gave out today, we really are preaching to the choir.
Right.
But
we are.
But we are being recorded. Maybe they'll listen. I don't know.
We are. But one of the things that came up is that, that I think bears clarifying, is that sometimes things seem a little fast at this meeting of approving, like to Bill's point, you're talking tens of millions of dollars that are getting approved. All that gets worked out at the committee level. So just want to accentuate 2 things about that. One is we include the minutes from those committees in your packet, so you can always read what's happening at the committee level if you're not there. And the other thing is that all the commissioners, there may be some exceptions from some of the newer appointments while we're waiting for the new slate and everything, but just about all the commission members are assigned to one of those 4 committees. So if you're really wanting to see where the magic happens and the down and dirty, everything about what's happening with all this money, you're actually assigned to one of those committees. So if you attend those, you'll see all that in action. But I can understand how it can seem a little fast at this level of being asked to approve things, but that's because it's happening at the committee structure. And then I really will be done after this. I just want to accentuate again that NERPC is, we say this in the welcome letter that we send out, but NERPC has great staff, and they work really hard, and they make sure everything keeps flowing and that the money keeps flowing, and You know, it's one of those things that if we're doing everything right, nobody really thinks about it because the money's just coming, you know. But the value of NERC is really the connections between the commissioners that are here. And that's something that staff really has no control over. Your participation is what makes this effective. So if we don't have those folks there, it diminishes NERC's effectiveness. It exists. The statute that I referenced doesn't say anything about the MPO, which is the federal funding portion. That statute is only about the Council of Governments. That's only about you people being at the table. I don't mean you people in some derogatory sense. I just mean, you know, the folks that are elected, to bring them together to have these kind of discussions. And that is only as effective as your participation. So I just want to say that. We value when you're here. And staff gets happy when we have, like, you know, discussions that are beyond just the agenda approval. We love it. That's what we're here. That's what the commission's here for, is to have things that get discussed that aren't necessarily items to be voted on. So I just want to say that it's the more effective, the more that you participate, the more effective NERC is.
Thank you, Executive Director Warner. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
Thank you for filling us all in on all of this. It was very, very good information. And as I pass the meeting over to Kevin, I neglected to give Andy Vasquez his certificate. So Andy, my apologies, but here you go. So, and Kevin, yes, applause. See, you guys love applause for this. And then Kevin, the Transportation Committee report, please.
First, I'd like to apologize to Ty. He's only missed 2 meetings in 13 years.
I have. That was only that first one was for surgery. So I think, you know, that's, yeah, that was my
The second
second.
one is because I needed the meeting, because we need to get some stuff done. But I appreciate those people that did come. The Transportation Committee meeting met on March 3rd. There was one informational item presented to the committee. Mitch Berluga reported on the development of the Gary Elevated Project. This is a proposed 3.8-mile bike trail that will use an abandoned elevated rail line. The core of the proposal involves the rerouting of the Marquette Greenway to take advantage of 3.8 miles of an abandoned elevated rail line running through Midtown Gary and connecting to the Indiana Dunes National Park. The goal of the project is to transform this disinvested area of Gary into a renewed and vibrant community, offering both existing and new residences places to shop, work, and play. The City of Gary and the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission aim to bring together a broad spectrum of stakeholders under 3 work groups: teams of local planning officials, or teams of local elected officials, planning professionals, businesses, residents, and neighborhood leaders have begun meeting to develop a vision for the trail that reflects the community input. A tentative timeline for the project calls for the planning and engineering to begin in 2027 and construction to begin in 2031, depending on the availability of funding. There are 2 resolutions for the commission approval, resolutions 2604 and 2605. These resolutions both enact amendments to NERC's core products that are intended to update how NERC processes changes to the Transportation Improvement Program. Information regarding these resolutions begins on page 9 of the agenda packet. Tom Vandervoot will present information on both of these resolutions together, and we will ask for the executive board to vote on them consecutively.
Good morning and thank you. As Commissioner Breitsky stated, there are 2 resolutions that are kind of 2 sides of the same coin. So I'm going to kind of present the big picture for both of them and then talk about the individual resolutions kind of at the end and ask for a vote on them kind of one after the other. They do have to be approved separately. So as background, 2 of NERC's core documents as a metropolitan planning organization, an MPO, are our Transportation Improvement Program, which is our short-range plan of funding, federal funding for transportation projects. That's adopted every 2 years, and between the adoptions of the new documents, it can be revised as needed to reflect the addition or subtraction of projects, the change in cost, change in project scope, those types of things. We also have, that's shown here on your left, it's called Invest NWI. Our current TIP is what we call it, is for the years 2026 through 2030. And then we also have what's called a public participation plan. That's shown on the screen on the right. It's called Engage NWI. That is a document that outlines how we engage with the public, with stakeholders, and fulfill the federal requirements for public participation as it relates to our other core documents, such as the TIP and our long-range plan. That can also be updated from time to time. And currently that document includes the definitions and thresholds for TIP revisions. So as I said, the TIP can be changed from time to time, but it has to be done in accordance with the procedures that are outlined in that public participation plan. So when we completed our federal certification review as an MPO in August of last year, with the final report being issued in November, we received a recommendation from the federal review team, which is made up of representatives from the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. And specifically, they said, which is stated here on the slide, our TIP document does not contain the thresholds which determine, I'm just going to read this, if a change to a project requires a modification or an amendment. And they suggested that we include those in our Transportation Improvement Program document. As I said, they're currently included in our public participation document. So those thresholds that I'm talking about are twofold. Two of the ways you can change a TIP are through an amendment. An amendment is a significant change that requires public comment and approval by the governing board of the MPO, which would be, for us, the executive board of the full commission. An administrative modification, or a modification, is a change it's a minor change that can be made to the Transportation Improvement Program that does not require public comment, and it can be completed administratively, meaning it doesn't require approval by the governing board. So that was the recommendation from the certification review. And then in addition to the location of those definitions, the federal review team also noted that our thresholds for a modification, a minor change, and an amendment, a significant change, are different from the definitions that is used by the Indiana Department of Transportation when they make changes to their State Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP. So what that means is that there will be times where INDOT will have a project change that needs to be reflected in our TIP, and they have identified it as a minor change, a modification, and they think it can happen very quickly. But because our definition, which is something that we've developed on our own per federal regulations, our definition is different. So they say, hey, we need this project change done. Can you have it done in a month? And we say, well, that's an amendment for us. So that's going to take a 21-day public comment period. It's going to be reviewed by the Transportation Committee, and then that's going to be forwarded as a recommendation to our board. So it's actually going to be a much longer process. And so because of that confusion, the federal review team recommended that we somehow align our definitions at a minimum for INDOT projects. So in addition to that, after kind of reviewing those recommendations and sort of meeting internally and talking about some of our own issues and challenges with the TIP, we kind of determined that there is a need to update our own internal thresholds for cost changes as it relates to a particular project in our TIP. So currently, anytime a project cost change exceeds $100,000, it's considered an amendment, and it goes through that longer process. So because of the inflationary environment that we've had over the past probably 6 years, that $100,000 mark is very easy to hit. It can be hit with a very minor change in a project, And so what that means for us is that we've had a lot of projects with what we would think to be insignificant cost changes, having to go through a much longer process. They can't just be funded, corrected with the funding administratively. And then in addition to that, as we were reviewing our definitions, we noticed there's some ambiguity in them. So we thought, now would be a good time to make some changes to those definitions and those thresholds. So as I said, currently in Engage NWI, our public participation plan, we have definitions for an amendment and a modification. I won't read those here, but as I said, bullet number 2 under amendment is the most relevant to the discussion today. Any addition of funds over $100,000 is considered an amendment. And then under modification, number 4, an addition of funds under $100,000 is considered a modification. We also have 2 other types of amendments. One is called the technical amendment, and this is something that is related to nothing sort of intrinsic to the project itself. It's kind of like the correction of some information within the project description, or there are times when we have to update our long-range plan with performance targets, new data, and things like that. Technical amendment does not require public review, but it is approved by the commission or executive board. And then there are instances when we can process an emergency amendment, which bypasses the public process and the commission. It's essentially an amendment processed as an administrative modification. But there are only 2 instances when we do that. One is if there is a public safety issue, such as a bridge that collapsed that needs to be repaired very quickly, and we don't have time to go through that 45-day time period. Or at the end of the year, when our fiscal year is ending, we need to spend money that has gotten sort of shuffled around through the year, and we need to reallocate some funds. We can do that quickly in order to get all the funds that we have obligated before the end of the fiscal year. So what we're proposing to do here today is, as I said, we're proposing a clarification to some of our definitions, and probably the most significant change would be we're changing the cost change thresholds that I mentioned. So in the proposal today and in the recommendation today is that there are two resolutions. The one will take these definitions out of the public participation plan, and the second one will add these definitions to the transportation improvement program. So what I'm going to talk about here today is the proposal for inclusion in Invest in NWI, in other words, the TIP. So these are the new definitions that we're proposing. A formal amendment. It's essentially the same as the previous, but highlighted in blue on the screen are the changes. So what we've done is we are recommending a significant or increase or decrease in project costs as defined in the cost change threshold table, which I will get to, as well as I said, kind of some clarification. If we're changing the year of a regionally significant project, meaning a project that requires air quality conformity determination, if it's within, this is a bit of a technical thing here, but if it's within its open to traffic year, and it's still changing years, we won't be requiring an amendment because there are no air quality implications. It's still scheduled to be completed by the same date, so it doesn't affect our analysis in any way. So those are the changes to the definition of an amendment. Technical amendment will remain the same. An emergency amendment would remain the same. And then, as I said, the other side of the coin, an administrative modification, a non-significant funding change per the cost change threshold table included in that appendix. So that'll just make reference to that. And then, so this is the table that would be incorporated into the TIP that would define the threshold for an amendment versus an administrative modification. So rather than having a sort of a cutoff line of $100,000, the new definition, and this is consistent with INDOT's definitions, would be related to the proportional change in the project. So if a project is, if the total cost of a project is less than $2 million, an administrative modification could be made up to 75% of the project cost, and so on, kind of increasing. The greater the cost of the project, the less of a percentage can be made as an administrative modification. So what that would mean for just kind of looking backwards, how that would have affected the fiscal year 2026 amendments and modifications that we made under the old system. For our local projects, we had 61 amendments under the $100,000 threshold. Under the new threshold, we would still have 51 project changes that would be processed as an amendment. 44% of those were new project additions. And then 10 of those could have been processed as an administrative modification. For NDOT projects, we approved 90 project change amendments. So 72 of those would have been amendments under the new system. 43 of them were new projects added to the program. So that's not affected by the cost change threshold at all. And then 18 of those projects could have been processed as an amendment. So you can see the totals there. So the process that we followed to come to this, this recommendation, I kind of mentioned we discussed it with the federal review team. We also discussed it internally. And then we presented this at a January 21 meeting of our Transportation Resources and Oversight Committee, also known as the TROC group. So we kind of had a discussion as to, these are the individuals who are sponsoring projects. They're the technical staff from your communities that are working day to day on these projects. They actually recommended that we adopt this set of thresholds. So based on that, we put together these two amendments. Sorry, I got an email inbox notification. So there are two resolutions. The first would be Resolution 26-04. That is the resolution that removes the definitions from the public participation plan. That was made available for a 45-day public comment period. The full public comment report is included in your agenda packet. We did receive one comment regarding that. It was not relevant to the subject matter, so we responded to it, but we did not make any change to the resolution. Resolution 2605, that's the resolution that incorporates the new definitions and thresholds into the TIP, was made available for a 21-day public comment period. Similar to the previous, we did receive one comment. It was related to something in Munster, actually, so we forwarded that to, I believe, your town manager. Again, we responded to that. We did not make any change to the resolution. And then both of these resolutions were reviewed at the March 3 meeting of the Transportation Committee and received a unanimous recommendation to approve. So the recommendation for today would be to approve Resolution 26-04, which would amend NERC's public participation plan, and then to approve Resolution 2605, approving Amendment 2605 to the fiscal year 2026-2030 TIP.
Are there any questions for Tom?
Can I just add, if the actual change, we put the entire public participation plan in the packet, so it's all in there. Those changes are on page 28 of the packet.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
it seems like a big amount to adjust. I'm just wondering how that comes up. I know with our projects, you know, if it costs something like 20% over, we have to rebid and go through that process. Is it the estimates that we're getting are so low, or what's happening, I guess? 75% of $2 million, that's a lot of money still, you know?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So we don't see large cost increases generally with projects. that don't involve a scope change. So although these thresholds kind of do seem much higher than the previous threshold of $100,000, the instance, and I can kind of show you, that's kind of why we included this table. So there were 10 projects that would have been processed as an administrative modification.
Under this
Change
structure?
under the, so we approved 61 amendments last year, or FY26. Of those, if we had had a higher cost threshold, in accordance with this table that we're proposing today, 10 of those amendments would have been administrative modifications. So we still would have had 51 amendments that would have gone to public comment period to the board for final approval.
Like 51 were higher than 75% of the 2 million, 50% of 15 million? Is that what you're saying? I guess I'm not getting it.
Well, I don't have the actual cost increases that are associated with those 10 projects.
Okay.
But yeah, 51 of those amendments either had a cost increase that would have been greater than what was shown in this table, or there would have been another reason why they were being amended. So 44 of them were new projects that were added to the program, which is always an amendment.
Okay.
And then, again, if there's like a significant change in scope to a project, that also requires an amendment, irrespective of the cost of that change.
Okay.
So we aren't seeing $1 million cost increases on projects. INDOT can. Sometimes they do. They see very large cost increases because they're doing large projects, so a minor change in the cost of one of the materials, for example, gets spread out over a huge project and it has a huge increase. That's really not an issue for us. The main thing is what this allows us to do is be a little more nimble and flexible and make these changes. The other thing to keep in mind is that our program has to be what's called fiscally constrained, meaning we have a budget and we can't program dollars that exceed that annual budget. So like we don't have a lot of slack in our program in general. So Charles is, as you all know, is the TIP programmer. So he's basically programming out our program on an annual basis using every single dollar that's available. Now there is always sort of projects that come in under, so we end up with some funding that we can put onto another project. And then so as the kind of the fiscal year progresses, we have to make those changes, add a little bit of funding here, decrease a little bit of funding there. But generally speaking, yeah, the $100,000 threshold is too low.
Yeah.
And then I will say one other thing. This is consistent with what other MPOs are doing in the state of Indiana. So Indianapolis MPO has adopted the state table as for their own guidelines. I believe Evansville as well. So the two other kind of larger MPOs in the state are using this as their guide. And then I'll mention one other thing. At the discussion with the TROC committee, there was a suggestion that we review this set of, we review these definitions on a biannual basis. So every time we adopt a new TIP, which happens every 2 years, we'll be adopting this again. So at that time they said, let's, in addition to adding project to the program, let's also take another look at these definitions. So this will be in place until, we're going to be adopting a new TIP next year. So this will sort of be a trial run to see if this works well. And if there are some changes that we want to make, we can always do so with the next TIP.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was, we were adding from TROC and also TBC that we have that mechanism. You can withdraw next year, rewrite. That's not an issue. It gives staff a little bit more flexibility in the meantime. And as a compromise, we ask the staff to provide monthly reports on the administrative modifications. So you know what so.
That's right, yeah, so we will be seeing on a, almost monthly basis, the Transportation Committee will be reviewing not only the amendments, but also those administrative modifications. So if we start to see a pattern where, there's some concern that things aren't happening the way that we hoped or whatever, we'll notice that. It'll be noticed. It won't be, just kind of in the back room. Nobody sees it. It'll be out in the public, and like I said, we can make those changes. The other thing, I didn't really mention this, but the public participation plan is much more difficult to amend and change. As you may have noticed that it takes a 45-day public comment period instead of a 21-day public comment period. So that's one of the reasons why Federal Highway and FTA recommended specifically that we take that out of the public participation plan and put it into the TIP so that we could change it, be more adaptable as, again, inflationary changes happen. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe these thresholds will need to be increased in the future. We don't know. So it makes us a little more flexible for us as an agency to make the needed changes that we identify through committee or internally.
Thank you. That also levels us up with the MPOs across the nation, so we stay competitive as well.
Yes.
Could I just ask a question? So I think I just want to make sure I'm interpreting what I heard you say. So we have a budget, and so if all of these issues came through that were greater than the thresholds, or less than the threshold, and went to administrative modifications, we're still constrained by the total number of budget dollars we have. So,
Correct.
you
Yeah.
know,
So
if we had 50% of a $15 million project that would be under the threshold, we may not have enough budget money to approve that. Is that what I'm looking for is guardrails?
yes.
On the one that's 75% of a $2 million project, that's 3/4 of the project. I mean, that doesn't seem logical.
Right.
That we would just approve that as an administrative action. It seems like a very large number, I guess. It's not maybe not a lot of money in comparison to the total budget, but
Yeah.
the total project is a lot of money.
Yes. No. That's exactly right. If, for example, Beverly Shores had a project that was programmed at $1 million and
From your mouth, the guys there.
and it came in, at 1.75 million. It's, we have to maintain fiscal constraints, so we couldn't say, okay, we'll just give you $750,000 that we don't have, and we couldn't remove a project, another community's project from the TIP in order to give that money to Beverly Shores, because removing a project is an amendment. So there are a lot of guardrails, and as I said, the cost increases are generally fairly, they're not as high as these thresholds could permit. In our case, because we have much smaller projects, a large cost increase is usually associated with a significant scope change or the addition of a phase of a project, and both of those actions are amendments as well. So, and that was,
So the risk is low.
Yeah, exactly, and this was the conversation that we had at the T-Rock group, specifically about, well, are we opening ourselves up to, major swings in the program without any oversight? And the conclusion was, no, we're not, because there are all these other, checks on how we do this.
Commissioner Tom, can you have a question?
Just briefly to restate, to make sure I have the concept correct. There is a backup if there's an issue that this has to be renewed or reinvested after a certain period, every time the TIF is adopted.
Yes, at a minimum, this will be adopted and reapproved with the adoption of a new TIP, and that happens every 2 years.
Okay, so there would be a period of time that this could be studied, and if adjustments needed to be made, it would be not a foreign concept to make it that time.
Correct. And by moving into the tip, it allows us to do that on a much more regular basis.
Right.
Any additional questions for Mr. Vanderwood? Thank you very much. We appreciate the information.
Do we have a motion to it?
You do?
First resolution, 2604.
2604 from Commissioner Todd.
Yes, please.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Phelps down there. Any additional conversation, discussion? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of, this is for the first resolution 26-04. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that resolution does pass. Then we move on to resolution 26-05, which is, was also discussed. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Down at the end, was that again? Thank you, and Commissioner Emerson, thank you. Any additional questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we're getting tired. Anyone opposed? Very good, so that resolution passes as well. Thank you, or it's adopted. It's adopted. Very good. Any other questions on that before we head over to NDOT? And Ty has his hand raised. He's trying to get my attention.
Sorry, it's just,
That's
just
okay.
because it was mentioned, I just want to add a little point of, it wasn't germane to the resolution, but for the emergency amendments that the executive director can make in those couple of instances, life safety issue or imminent lapse of funds, just wanted to say on top of that, we did not make a change to that section, but Charles typically reports out to the commission after that's been done, so that you're aware that that happened. So those don't just happen behind closed doors and whatnot.
Right. And Commissioner Gretzky, do you have more
Yes.
to report? Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay, I jumped the gun.
Also, the committee received a report on the February administrative modifications from Charles Brasky, which previously said we get monthly reports. Next, Ryan Lissick of Drive Clean Indiana reported funding opportunities through the Indiana Office of Energy Development. And finally, Kathy Luther provided information on a new program provided by NERC that will offer technical assistance to local governments for grant writing / proposals for projects that improve natural resources and resiliency. For more information, contact Kathy Luther. The next meeting of the Transportation Committee is scheduled to take place on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 at 10 a.m. in the NERC offices. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. We appreciate you guys and all your efforts.
Thank you.
NDOT, our NDOT representative Adam's here today. So what's new in NDOT?
Good morning, everybody. As Matt reported during the now somewhat infamous February meeting during recess, Flex Road, the environmental document got approved in January, so that's something we're very excited about. We'll start to see some work out there. Again, Flex Road is this project that we're using to increase capacity on the Borman without increasing capacity on the Borman, using various TSMO strategies like hard shoulder running and ramp metering, et cetera. It's a huge project. We've been talking about it for a very long time, so it's going to be exciting to see construction get going on that. Nothing really cool is going to be happening this year. It's going to be mostly fiber optic installations, stuff like that. And over the next couple of construction seasons, we'll start to see these giant gantries get put in place with all the message boards and stuff to go with them. So we expect that project to wrap up in late 2029. It's a very big project. I think it's a little bit north of 250 million at this point. But about half of that is federally funded through a mega grant. So again, project we've been talking about for a long time. We'll start to get moving soon. Moving on to winter. I guess we're still doing winter. We had a pretty significant snowfall in a big part of the district on Monday. I will not get fooled by false spring again. I think we've had 2 of them already. And I know we're looking into the 70s for this weekend, but again, you're not going to catch me getting fooled again by that. With all these freeze thaw cycles, you might be noticing in your communities and on our roads, potholes are a real big problem right now, and going to continue to be. Our crews are out there doing their best to stay ahead of them. I'm sure you're all facing the same in your communities. Just, exercise caution, have your constituents do the same. There's a lot of rough pavement out there. For Commissioner Carnahan, we do have a public hearing coming up next week on the US 41 Center Turn Lane project. That'll be on Monday.
Hanover School.
That's correct, yes.
And I talked to my town engineer last night,
Yeah.
and he indicated to me that Christopher Bieber, that there was some initial stuff that was in there when this was at the start.
Mhm.
And he said it's not in there, so he will be there to address some of those concerns on
Yeah.
Monday.
And obviously, that's not just for Commissioner Carnahan. Anybody else is also welcome to attend. So again, we have that coming up. And then last, and certainly not least, Matt and I think several in this room spent some time at Purdue's 112th Road School. I don't know when they're going to stop numbering them, but it doesn't seem to be in the not so distant future. Always a great time, connecting with people. We did bump into Ty down there, and saw Tom and a couple of things as well. So always a good time, kind of networking, learning about some new stuff, and Ted did a great presentation about how the history of how state roads and interstates got numbered, going all the way back into the mid-1800s. It was really fascinating. It's always cool, like stuff like that. I don't have to go to like the nerdy engineer stuff, so I always get to find the cool things. We started out with a really good panel discussion with our Commissioner Lindsey Quist, the Secretary of Transportation Matt Ubelor, and also the Mayor of Warsaw, Jeff Gross. They hit on a wide range of topics: elephants in the room, funding, etc. Suffice to say, we did not solve INDOT's long-term funding issue during this fireside chat, but it was very good and informative nevertheless. So that said, I'm willing to entertain any questions or comments from folks, or I'll hang around afterward as well. Yeah.
How do we report potholes?
Great question. I should have said that. 855 INDOT for you is the phone number. INDOT4U.com. INDOT, the number 4, the letter U, I should have said. So my team manages the customer service for our district. So you would go there, you could call, you could put it in, report a concern through our website. It'll come to our team, and then we have X amount of days to get that filled. You receive a resolution to that, you receive a tracking number, and our team will reach out and contact. So yeah, please, our team is out there monitoring conditions, but also it's always really helpful when people point things out to us. We can't be everywhere all the time, so please do use it. Thank you.
And thank you for attending as well, we appreciate that. Next on our agenda, anything else for transportation before I move on? Next on our agenda, very good. George, I want to turn it over to you for Economy in Place. Anything to report?
I have nothing to report. We have not met since the last meeting, and we haven't got a date.
There's a meeting coming up.
Yes,
So
there is.
very good. Thank you.
TBA.
To be announced. How about Mr. Emerson and the Environment Committee? Anything to report?
In the brief meeting, we don't have anything to report. We do have our next meeting, May 7th, 10 o'clock, right here. Go ahead.
Very good. Thank you very much. Under other business, Mr. Tom.
I had a comment, a quick one, considering the hour, a quick one. I would like to commend our executive director, Ty Warner, for handling a very difficult and a hard to approach situation with attendance at our meetings. Thank you for your time and patience at sorting this whole thing out and suggesting some alternatives and being very creative, but not disconcerting to anyone. We certainly appreciate your leadership skills, sir.
Thank you, Ty. Yeah. And I second that as well. And it's been a long time, as long as I've been in this chair and up here, it's been something we've been working on, just, you know. So thank you for continuing to stay on top of it. It's what's best for the organization. Announcements. Oh, John, I've got John, George, and then Bob. Well,
something came to my notice this week. The governor made an announcement of the availability of $1 billion to be used to enhance the industry of agriculture, biology, and other related areas. The objective is to increase the number of people engaged in the industry by 100,000. And the effort, to my interpretation, is to be done through groups like NERC. They mentioned the Central Indiana Regional Planning Commission as being the initial unit engaged in this effort. And I just thought I'd mention it so that people can look into it and see how to engage.
I agree. It was not on my radar. I'm sure it's on yours, and, it will be on ours, but it'll help us focus on that.
I believe the announcement was Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's
All right,
fresh.
on Tuesday, we'll take a look at it and see how we can work with that and apply it and such. George?
Brief comment, since we'll be changing gavels, I'd like to congratulate you on a fine term that you served.
You're kind, thank you.
And welcome future chair. And if we may, after the change of the gavel, all the past chairmen, perhaps we could have a group photo.
Oh, very nice, yeah, very nice. Thank you. Bob, what's going on in Cedar Lake?
All right, my town council is concerned about Illinois license plates living in the town of Cedar Lake. And our police chief has drafted an ordinance and turned it over to our town attorney to try and put some more teeth into it. Our problem is we have some people that work in Illinois and get vehicles that are licensed in Illinois, and they're able to drive them home to our community. What they've asked me, if anybody else has a problem with Illinois plates coming into their community, and what are you doing about it?
Ours is, we work a lot through the schools because then in our school SRO officers work with that much more than our police do. Anyone else? Austin?
I'll say one thing. When we started working on that in Portage, we had people say, well, this feels like discrimination against Illinois people. And I said, it's not, because they're not Illinois people, they're Indiana people who are using an Illinois license plate. So I think it's important when you talk about that, remember that this is about, especially if you're a community that has a wheel tax, this is something where somebody, whether they mean to or not, if you, for some reason, license plates, the only thing cheaper in Illinois than Indiana, go figure. We've been working on trying to see if we can tie that to some of our utility sign-ups, because everybody who moves to Portage, you gotta come and sign up for your utilities, and we've been working in our city to see, in addition to just police enforcement, if there's a way that we can kind of tie some of the reminders and maybe some of the enforcement to that as time goes by. So I'll follow up with you on how we figure that out if we get there.
Mary, you're also with a border town, and an experience from Dyer.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up because the schools are definitely affected. Because I used to be opening the doors with kids every day, and
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other business or
I have a
yes,
comment.
Mr. Trump.
So I'm on the Marquette Greenway Committee, and I would report that last week I rode my bicycle with 3 other people across Florida, starting in New Smyrna Beach and ending up on the West Coast. We covered 243 miles in 5 days. But what I witnessed was how that trail system works in Florida. 90% of our riding was on trails, and through small towns, through large towns. We stayed in hotels. We didn't camp. I'm beyond that. But we ate in the restaurants in the towns. So that really works, and I can't wait until Indiana gets caught up with the state of Florida and some other states on their trail. I mean, there were walkers, there were riders. There's a couple of social media sites. There's a large number of people that ride from coast to coast in Florida and exchange their stories and trade where the best places to stay are and the best places to be. So it's really a useful program, and I think Marquette Greenway will be that for us, and hopefully we can get some trails headed south to connect with more trails north of Indiana.
That would be good for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I mean, there's also I don't know how it all fits together yet. I know just this much about it, but the Trail 250 to celebrate the semi-quincentennial, that's coming through. And so it's something that's being celebrated coast to coast, and it's just good. It's good for a county, it's good for quality of life and all of that, so thank you. Any other comments before we?
One more.
Yes, please.
I want to wish everybody a happy Easter.
Thank you. We like that because as I adjourn the meeting, I will remind everyone, Ty's stuck it on my sleeve here. One more thing, just one more.
I don't want to keep you.
No, that's all right.
And I know I've talked a lot already, but just 3 very quick things. One,
Three?
But they're gonna be fast. They're gonna be fast. One segues off of what Mr. Phelps just said about the trails. So, Doug, I really try not to highlight one media outlet over another, but the Times of Northwest Indiana, we've made copies of it for you. Once again, they always invite us to write an editorial guest column. So I put copies out there for you from last Sunday's edition. They do this progress edition every year. This year they're extending it all the way through September. But it's if you subscribe or get there, there's also articles from Heather Ennis from the Northwest Indiana Forum and Matt Wells from One Region, and they're all very, very good. Matthew Bowman from Purdue Northwest wrote a fantastic article about he teaches hospitality at Purdue Northwest. But relating to what Mr. Phelps just talked about, the staff piece that was focused on is a pretty extensive article in the Marquette Greenway, which quotes me and Mitch quite a lot and focuses on NERCC's work. So just building off of what Mr. Phelps said, that's worth reading. And just as an FYI, there's also a piece from Nathan Aldrichs, who went on that Phoenix One Region trip, which is what I joined on, which is why I wasn't here last month, about what Phoenix is doing and how they can be applied here. So I wanted to mention that. Okay. That's one. Yeah, she's got it. For the slate, thank you, George, for that. Both the chair, outgoing chair, incoming chair have been just a delight to work with through all this process. I just wanted to mention in advance, since Mr. Haney is here, so Lisa Rosenkrantz had some personal circumstances. She's not stepping down from the commission, but she has stepped down from the executive board. So the nominating committee, you'll see this in your packet for next month, has nominated Joe to step in as the LaPorte County representative, replacing Lisa Rosenkrantz. So thank you for being willing to do that. So that'll be on the agenda. And then the last thing I just wanted to do is thank our friends at Fluid Coffee once again for their donation this morning. They actually reached out to us to ask, I didn't even ask them this time, they reached out to us to ask if they could supply the upcoming meeting. So very good. That's a great relationship and really appreciate a local business stepping in like that.
We like that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, without anything else, a reminder, our next meeting is April 16th. It is a full commission meeting. I want to encourage everyone to attend. Review your packet, RSVP, mark it in your calendar up to 4 times, and we're good to go. And without